All right. Yeah, we see it.
You see it yet, Taneya?
I did. Yes, got the notification.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Okay, Taneya.
All right. Well, thank you all for taking the time to
Yes,
log in and join us this afternoon. We are so glad to have you with us as we are going to focus on North Carolina. And it was funny, Renata and I were having a brief chat beforehand that I got all dressed up in my alma mater gear, Carolina, go Tar Heels. And Renata's like, through that, Taneya.
Yeah, my ancestors are all from North Carolina, but I'm a Virginia Cavalier alum, so you won't find any UNC gear in this house at all.
But of course, we all have in common our mutual and shared interests in the state and the wonderful resources we have available to us when it comes to learning more about the lives that our ancestors and extended family members lived and experienced. So we will bond over the state. We don't have to have any affiliation to any school, right?
There you go. Well, we're really excited to go on and get started today because we have a lot to share today. So you'll remember that last month we had Doug Brown from the State Archives and Libraries sharing with us all the wonderful resources that are available to us as North Carolina researchers there in Raleigh. And today we have with us representatives from the North Carolina Genealogical Society, the current president, Laurel Sanders, and the newly hired executive director, Michelle Doyle. And they're going to introduce themselves to you in just a minute, but let's give them a warm, Let's Talk North Carolina Genealogy welcome. And then when they finish, you'll have an opportunity to ask them questions about their presentation. And then our very own Taneya Koonce, after we give our announcements, Taneya will be sharing another wonderful North Carolina resource with us, which is the Digital NC website. So we want to get started right now and welcome Laurel and Michelle. You can go ahead and take over, and if you need to share your screen, you should be able to do that now.
Thank you very much, Renata and Taneya, for inviting us to do this. We're really excited to share this with everybody today. I appreciate it so much. And I do want to say that as in my time as president of the North Carolina Genealogical Society for the last 5 years, I just want you to know how much I've enjoyed having you on our board as our publicity chair. So Renata, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you. I think what you guys are doing with this Let's Talk North Carolina Genealogy program is just terrific. So thanks again for inviting us to join in on this today. I'm going to ask Michelle, our new executive director, to start out by telling everybody a little bit about who she is and her position with NCGS, and she's going to talk a little bit about membership in the society, and then I will jump back in and give you a little tour of our website and show you how to use some of the tools that we have there. So Michelle, do you want to go ahead and
sure,
talk a little bit?
Start talking. One thing I do well is talk. So my name is Michelle Doyle, and I was hired in July as the first executive director for the North Carolina Genealogical Society. Very excited about the position. As many of you probably know, the genealogy world is really changing. Online webinars, in person, COVID, all the rest of it has really turned things upside down. So I'm excited to be part of NCGS and try to figure out, what the future is going to look like. So I come from a nonprofit background. I spent 15 years as a librarian at Old Salem in the Mesda Research Library and thoroughly enjoyed my time there, and have a degree. So I have to go with Taneya. UNC Chapel Hill is where I got my library science degree, and have been in North Carolina for about 30 years. So a lot of my research is actually Pennsylvania, Maryland, but I do client research in North Carolina. So I am learning as we go along, trying to understand more how North Carolina works. So NCGS, the North Carolina Genealogical Society, was chartered in 1974. So we are coming up on our 50th anniversary, which we are very excited about. We are hoping to plan many wonderful things to be happening in 2024 to celebrate the organization and to celebrate the people. We wouldn't be where we are or who we are without the wonderful folks that have worked with us over the years. So I just real quick, I want to tell you a little bit about, and I'm going to be looking because my other screen is this way. I want to tell you a little bit about what we hope to accomplish, the kinds of things that we're trying to do. So one of the first things is we're increasing interest in and raising the standards of research and compilation by means of educational programs and publications. And what that means is we do outreach, we do webinars, we do conferences, we do online webinars. We're doing things to try to sort of increase the interest in people to actually come to North Carolina to research, or at least use our resources to research in North Carolina. We want to acquaint members with research sources and materials in North Carolina. Here we are, trying to let you all know what we have, what we can offer you, and how we can help you with your North Carolina research. Serve as a medium of exchange for genealogical information. So one of the things Laura will be talking about is our journal. Diane Richard is our editor, and she does an amazing job every quarter pulling together resources and people and all kinds of fun stuff that are available for research in North Carolina. And we want to promote the collection, preservation, and utilization of manuscripts, documents, and other materials of genealogical and historical value. That means that we try to work with, so we work with the state archives, we work with the state library. We try to work with as many local societies as we're able to. We are very interested in making sure that North Carolina research materials are available for all you and everybody that wants them to be able to access those materials and use them in their research. So in order to do those things, some of the things that we offer, and Laura will go into much more detail about this, we do offer workshops. Nationally known speakers come to our workshops. So we have folks from all over the US, and with Zoom, with technology now, we're able to get speakers elsewhere, from elsewhere as well. We provide free live webinars on various topics all through the year. I already mentioned, we have our journal. We have a monthly newsletter that you haven't signed up for yet. You need to go give us your email and sign up for our newsletter. It contains all sorts of things, talks about what's coming up, what we've done, what we're going to do, who we're sponsoring, who our speakers are, little tidbits of information, what new records might be available, what the archives is up to. So there's a lot of really useful information that comes out in our monthly newsletter. We have an awards program where we offer awards for, best family history website, for best family history books, for best society journals. So we try to take an active part in recognizing those folks who are helping the resources in North Carolina become available to all of you that are researching, trying to make sure that we're aware of what's out there, and that folks that are creating some of these books and websites and webinars and whatever else they're creating, that they get the recognition that they deserve. We partner with other societies for important things. We worked with the Federation of Genealogical Societies, FGS, when they were still in business, with raising funds for the War of the 1812 pension files when they were digitizing those. We think it's really important that we reach out to others and we try to help them, and we try to try to figure out ways that we can help each other. And let's see, we don't maintain our own library. We do not have a physical space, so you can't come to us to research, but you can send questions to info@ncgenealogy.org that we can help you move you on. We don't actually do research, but a lot of times we're able to point people in the right direction for their research. Now we'll let Laurel talk about it some more.
Great. Thanks, Michelle.
Mhm.
So again, I'm Laurel, president of NCGS for the last 5 years. And prior to that, I was the program chair. And I'll be coming off the board at the end of this year, but I will be continuing to help and do some things with our events. What I want to do is I want to share my screen and show you our website and some of the things that you can access through the website. So let me do that. Give it a minute to come up here. Great. Everybody should be able to see my screen now. And like Michelle, I'm going to be looking over to the side because I've got it up on my second monitor. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you some of the things that are available for you to use, whether or not you're a member of NCGS. And then I'll talk a little bit about some of our specific member benefits as well. And if you have questions or anything as I'm going along, please feel free to put those in the chat, and we'll have Michelle kind of keep an eye on that, and we'll try to answer some of those questions at the end. So first of all, just looking over here at this is the home page of our website. You'll see on the very left-hand side of the menu, membership. Well, there are a couple of things under there that you want to pay attention to if you're interested in joining, which again, we'll talk about in a little while. And then the next one is education and events. And this is where I want to show you a few things as we get started. The first thing I want to show you is something that a lot of people miss. They never find this on our website. And I think it's really, really interesting and important. And that's called Tools of the Trade. And that's right down here under education and events. Tools of the Trade is a series of articles that was created by certified genealogist Terry Moore, who was very active with our society for many years, and just wrote this phenomenal series of articles. And I want to just point out one in particular because it's a county that I've been working in recently, and it's a burned county. And we all know how difficult it can be when we're working in burned counties. We don't have information on all the counties here, but here's one, and it's Hertford. So when you come down, if you find an interesting article, you just click on the title, and it brings it up as a PDF in our PDF viewer. And here is a 2-page article full of resources about Hertford County and working in those records. And it also points you, for example, to certain collections that you may not be aware of, and gives you some places to look for some things that you might find some information in, even though it's a burned county and those county records may not exist anymore. There might be records elsewhere. Also, in this PDF viewer that we have on our website, you can use this button right here to download a copy of the PDF if you want to be able to read it offline. And that's available again to members or non-members as well. So those are our Tools of the Trade articles. Lots of good information there. The other thing I want to show you also under education events are our research guides. And again, these are also available whether you're a member or not of NCGS. We started putting together these research guides a couple of years ago, and we hope to continue to add these each year. We have our Vital Records Guide, which tells you all you need to know about vital records access for your ancestry in North Carolina. We've got the Historic Map Guide, which has interesting information about different resources for finding maps related to North Carolina that might help you with your genealogy and the context of your ancestry. And then we have the African American Genealogy Resources Guide. And what these guides are designed to do is to aggregate a lot of the information that's already out there on the internet, but to bring it all together into one place so that you can come here and then jump to these other resources that are located online. And then also in many cases to give you some background on those resources or to give you background information. So those are some things that you can check out. The other thing is I want to show you our webinar menu. We have webinars that are both live, that are scheduled several times each year, and also pre-recorded. or recorded recordings of our live webinars, for example. And this menu will show you what's coming up. So our next live webinar is Pre-Revolutionary Wars and Records with Craig Scott. This is for members only. It's going to be on December 7th at 7 p.m. And you would click on this and be able to register for that. And you do need to register ahead of time. Again, live webinars are members only, but several times a year, we do offer our webinars for non-members. Anybody can watch it for an entire weekend. So do keep an eye on our newsletter for those scheduled events. The other thing I want to show you on our webinar menu is we have 2 public webinars. Now, these are available to anyone, whether you're a member or not. One is called Accurate Transcriptions for Historical Records, and that's to help you understand how to correctly transcribe records. And Diane Richard, our journal editor, put this together for us. So it's got great information on transcription. And then the other one is How a Genealogist Uses the State Archives of North Carolina. Also a very good resource put together by Diane Richard. So those are public, available to anyone at any time. You can also come down here and explore the webinar library. And I'm just going to show you some of the things that are available there. We have a list of all our webinars with a brief description, but you can also filter those by speakers. So here are the speakers that have done our webinars for us: Judy Russell, Anita Fingersmith, Ari Wilkins, David McCorkle, just a terrific list of speakers and webinars. So those are some things that you can look at, and you can also preview some of these webinars as well by just clicking on the preview webinar link. And I'll show you where that is. Watch webinar previews right here. So those are a great educational resource. What a lot of people feel is the most tremendous resource we have, of course, is our journal, which we've been publishing since 1974. So we're close to our 200th issue. And this is where you would find that under publications. And then you can go to NCGS Journal. And while we're here, I'll just point out that we also have the NCGS blog available through this menu, which we post about maybe once every week or so, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month. And then also our NCGS news, which, as Michelle mentioned, is freely available. All you have to do is give us your email address for that. But I want to show you the journal. I think one of the things that is really most helpful on our website is the ability to search the journal index. And anybody can access the index. Only members can access the articles themselves, but you can search the journal even if you're a non-member and find out if there's anything in the index that might be of interest to you. So if I come down here to search the NCGS journal and go to search the index and click on that, I have 3 choices. I can search by ancestral name, I can search by numbered military units, or I can search by place names. So I'm just going to do a quick search by ancestral name. And I was kind of keeping an eye on what people were, a couple people put in more. So I'm going to put more in here in the search box right there. And what it's going to do is it's going to come back with a list of every occurrence of the name Moore in the journal in all of our issues since 1974. And there are some different ways that you can use this. You can filter. For example, you can see this person's last name is actually Albertson, but her maiden name was Moore, which you can see over here in parentheses. And there's a lot of them are like that, all these maiden names in parentheses over here. If you want to be just Moore for the last name, then you come over here under last name and you type in Moore. And this time it'll show you only those entries that have Moore as the last name. So it eliminates all those other extraneous entries where Moore is perhaps a maiden name instead. So lots of occurrences of that. And if you look down here, it says there are 2,145 entries filtered from 358,907 total entries. So that's how many names there are that it's finding in the index, and 2,145 of those are the name more. So that's kind of a very useful tool. Let me show you one other thing you can do, and that is to search the journal by article titles. And that's a separate search. And I'm going to do Hertford again. So I put Hertford in the search box right here. Okay, and my computer just froze. Figures. All right, let me go back and see if I can get this to work. Nope. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, we hear you fine.
What's going on with my computer right now?
Did you try just hitting enter, Laurel?
Yeah, and you shouldn't need to, but it's not, for whatever reason, it's not working. I just did it a few minutes. I just did it before we started to test it out, and it was fine. So
well, at least I know now it's not only me.
It's not necessarily just you. That's right. So let me go back here. So I want to show you something really cool that you can do with this feature.
Meanwhile, I'll pull the site up, and when you finish, if you want me to try to go back and do what you were doing, we can do that.
All right, so we're going to go back to more. And I'm going to pull up a page of Moors. I'm just going to go to a random page that has some different Moors. Oh gosh, there's a lot of pages where there's Moors of various names. Let's see. All right, so here we've got a bunch of different Moors: General Moore, Dr. Moore, Judge Moore, Mr. Moore. We're all in the titles. Here's some names. I wanted to get to the names. Okay, so here we've got some initials and Aaron Moore and so forth. So what we can do with this, right now, we know there's 2,100 entries, but right now we're showing just the top 10. So let's say I want to show, I'll just pick 50. So now it's going to show us 50 entries on this page. So you can scroll farther down, you can see all those different entries all the way down here. So now I've got a list of 50 Moors, and this is all on page 2 of what I'm looking at here on my screen, 2 of 43 pages. Now, what I can do with this is I can do 2 things. If you look right here, I can print this list. And I did it earlier with Hertford County, so I'll show you, and I'll show you this again later. But the list prints on a piece of paper with the names and the journal article or the journal that it appears in. But the other cool thing you can do is you can go up here and you can export this list to an Excel spreadsheet or as a CSV file, which you can bring in to any spreadsheet program. It's kind of a common file format. And I did this earlier with Hertford County. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So hopefully you can see my Excel spreadsheet now. And this is what I exported earlier for Hertford County. And it gives you a list of the article titles, and then it gives you all of the issues that they're in, and along with the volume number and the issue number and the year. So there's a couple things you can do with this. One thing I use this for is I use it as a research log. So if I'm researching a particular surname within our journal, and I get a list of like 100 different entries for that surname, I'll export that list to a spreadsheet or print it out. And then I will take the notes on that. So I go through each of those, I click on each of those journal links, and that will open up the journal for me. My Excel spreadsheet file has my journal number and page number and everything listed right there for me. And I'll open up that journal and I'll find that name on the page number that it told me. And then I'll take my notes on what I found right on that spreadsheet. So I've got my research log right there, along with the journal page number and the entry and everything. So handy, I think, for that particular purpose. And again, these, if you're a member, you can actually read the journal article. If you're not a member, you won't be able to see this. You'll only be able to see the index. But if you're a member, you'll actually get to the article itself. Let me go back one. So let's say that you're not a member of NCGS, but you're still interested in a particular journal article. If you have the information on what volume and issue that is, and for example, this is volume 4, number 3, you can purchase this individual issue, or you can purchase the whole year through our store, and you access our store up here. And then you go over here to NCGS Journal for the category. And then right here, you can download individual PDF issues, or you can purchase entire volumes, which is 4 issues for the year. The volumes are mailed. The PDF issues themselves are downloadable. But again, if you're a member, you can access all of the issues of the journal right from the website and download them to your computer with no additional cost. It's included as part of your membership. So it's very, if you want more than just a couple articles, it's really, really the way to go is to join. The other thing I want to show you that's available, I know we don't have a ton of time left, so I want to show you this really quickly, is if you're a member, you have the opportunity to create what we call a user profile. And there you could put in information about the ancestors that you're researching and the information that you have, and other members can then find you by going over to membership and to NCGS member listing. That's going to bring up a list of all of the members who have created profiles. And from that list, you can then search within surname of interest, various DNA things like Y-DNA, haplogroups, primary counties. You can even look up if there are people who are willing to look up information, or people who are available for professional help. So for example, I'm researching askews, so I can put askew in for surname of interest. And I'm the only one right now who lists that, but let me show you what a user profile looks like. There we go. So it has my contact information. It lists the counties that I'm researching, the surnames and counties that I'm interested in. If I had a PDF, for example, if I had written up some genealogy research, I could share that PDF, I could upload it, and then people would be able to download it to their own computers if I wanted to be able to share some of my family research information. I can list my earliest known ancestors, my brick wall ancestors, my DNA information, including GEDmatch kit number, and if I have a blog or any other sort of channel, or if I can do research, I can list that as well. So again, this is available to members. And it's just a way that we are trying, it's new, and we're trying to foster connection between people, because that's how people can learn so much more about their genealogy, is to find other people who are interested in the same things and may have found some of the information that you might be interested in. So that's how we're trying to foster some of those connections. Now, I just want to go back to our homepage and point out that if you're interested in joining NCGS, we have 1- and 2-year memberships available. And the memberships are either traditional printed memberships, which means you get the journal in the mail, or digital memberships, which means you get the journal as a PDF that you can look at online and download to your own computer if you choose to do that. So it's a little more expensive to get the printed journal, $45 for 1 year, which is still really reasonable, I think, given all the information that you can find there. And then it's even less expensive per year if you get the 2-year membership. It's only $85. But if you are not interested in having printed copies of the journal and you just want to be able to access it online, then your individual membership is only $40 for the year, or $75 for a 2-year membership. Now, in addition to the benefits that I've already told you about, whenever we do conferences or workshops, you will have a member discount available, which is usually in the range of 10 to 15% off the price of that conference. And you also get a discount on everything that's in our store. You get a 10% member discount. The only thing you have to remember about that is if you join, you have to be sure that you sign in to your membership before you make a purchase, because otherwise we don't know you're a member. We can't give you the discount. So you sign into your membership account, and then you go in and purchase your ticket to an event or purchase something in our bookstore. And you can see right here, for example, North Carolina Research. That's my go-to. I hope everybody who's doing research in North Carolina has a copy of this book. North Carolina Research is our North Carolina Research Bible. You really need it if you're doing any research, even in any of the southern states, really. You can see here it's normally $55, but if you're a member, it's $49.50. So that's a nice discount. And I actually purchased one when I first joined NCGS, and it just found it to be a tremendous resource. So I'm going to stop there and see if anybody has any questions, and remind you again, sign up for our newsletter. You can do that right through our the homepage of our website right there.
Laurel and Michelle, thank you so much. I actually learned a lot from your presentation. I had not ever seen Tools of the Trade, and you did say that people tend to overlook it, and I don't recall ever seeing that before. And so I've jotted that down, and a few other things that were surprising and new to me also. Greg Lamberson comments that the county guides and Tools of the Trade are particularly great, and he's asking, has NCGS considered expanding these into a North Carolina Gazetteer?
What my original goal, or I should say our original goal for the research guides, was to have one for each county. And what we realized quickly is that's a tremendous undertaking. We still would like to be able to do that, but I don't know how soon that's going to happen. We need to get more volunteers involved. So if you're interested in helping us put together a research guide for a particular county, contact Michelle at info@ncgenealogy.org. And we can, help get that going, because I think a research guide for each county would be just a wonderful thing to have. But again, we need people to help us put those together. There is an actual North Carolina Gazetteer for places, which I hope everybody has a copy of, because if you don't, you should. And it's this book here. Hope you can see that. But this is another book anybody researching in North Carolina should have. I think
Okay.
Greg also asked, I'm just looking at the chat. He asked when we had last updated it. This is NC Genealogy is in its second edition, and this was published in 1996. Now, it may seem like that was a long time ago, but the thing is, this is all about records that came out much, much earlier. So the information that's in here is all still totally relevant and totally accurate. What's not in here is things like digital NC. Some of our, there wasn't online information back when this was done. So online information, some of the newer resources for African American research are not in this book, things that weren't available then. But what we hope to do with our website is we hope that we're giving people information about that through the website as well. And then eventually we'll do a third edition of this book to include things like that. And we have talked about it. And again, it's just a matter of pulling together the resources to be able to make that happen.
Okay. Taneya, did you see anything else?
No, I think we caught everything in the chat. I'd commented that I really like the export option for being able to download that. And I like your suggestions to use it as a research log, because it's easier to work with it when you can control that data locally, as opposing to have to just interact with it on the website. So I think that was a nice feature for you to add to make available for us as researchers.
I just want to mention, I want to remind everybody that tries that is when you do that, when you pull up your list and it shows the number of entries that you're showing on your screen, that is going to be the number that gets exported. So it only exports the ones that are showing on your screen. So if you've got 200 entries, you need to change that number in that little box to 200 so that you get them all exported at once. Otherwise, you have to export them one page at a time, and that takes, much longer. So that's my little tip there.
I also jotted down your suggestion to use the listing as a research log, because that just makes so much sense, and you can check off as you have finished studying each one of the recommended links or that come from your search. And like you said, you can make notes right there on it. And even though I use the site and use the feature and even make lists, I've never thought of saving them as a log. So that was a really great suggestion. So thank you.
I hope everybody has a good time with that and gets good use from it.
Well, thank you so much. So before we move on to digital NC, and you will have another opportunity if you think of a question for Laurel and or Michelle. They're going to stick around with us, so you can still put questions in the chat and we can come back to it afterwards. You can also raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question live, so you can still do that. We'll do the announcements and then we'll see if anybody has raised their hand. Okay, I see Elisha or Elisha. Let's get these announcements and then we'll come right back to your question. So just a couple today. Our research chat is coming up on December 18th. And as you all know, the difference between the chat and these shows is that these are, first of all, shared on YouTube, and they are public, and we are usually presenting some type of information to you through the shows. And then 2 weeks later, we come back and just have a chat where we can talk about the topic of the show or a theme that Taneya and I come up with for that month's chat. And so this month, we're just going to kind of do what we're calling a holiday festive chat. We're just going to have a laid back, come and share anything you want to share about your research, updates to your research. We can still put brick walls, questions, conundrums out there to get the community's support in how to research a particular thing. But we're just going to relax, and we want everyone who joins us on December 18th to consider wearing, if you've got that ugly sweater or some type of a holiday related sweater, no matter what holiday you may be celebrating in December, or you might have a coffee mug or a water bottle, or you might want to make a background on your on your Zoom, just something that says holiday, and just come ready to relax and chat and wrap the year up with us here at Let's Talk North Carolina Genealogy. Taneya.
Great. Yeah, no, that's great. And then we wanted to give everyone just a heads up that when we roll around to January, we're not going to have another show at the beginning of January. We imagine many people will be busy. It's the beginning of the new year. So we will not have a show, but then we'll have a research chat mid-January. Oh, I didn't write down the date. That would be
the 15th.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
so
because the first Sunday in January is New Year's Day. So we figured that we would just give everyone a break and let you prepare for 2023 on that day. It'll be here. So, and I think that's all we have, right, Taneya?
Yeah, that is all we have for the extent of our announcements today.
All right. So is it Elisha? Help me with that.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It is Elisha. I'm glad to be here. Renata, you answered my question. I didn't see it in the chat. And that is for me to check out the YouTube channel. And I also see I have some cousins online. Hey, cousins. All right. Thank you.
Well, we're glad you're here. You're here. Thank you. And Laurel, just before we go, would you just put the I think, did we share the link that we had to share for joining, if you're interested in joining NCGS?
No, we can.
Okay, Taneya's going to put that in because we do, you know, Laurel and Michelle were very humble, and they're not begging for any memberships. That's not why they're here at all. But I'm publicity chair, so I'm just gonna put it out there a little bit because you know, this is a membership that you will find highly beneficial to your research, not only because of the webinars that you'll have access to, all the functions of the website that Laurel showed you. And I don't think that you really, if you haven't used the journal feature before, that few minutes that we gave her to show it to you really doesn't do it justice. You know, you are actually reading articles all the way back to 1975 about the counties that you're researching, the people in those counties, and for many people, your actual family members. And a lot of those articles are transcriptions that were done of original records that, yeah, we might be able to get some of them online now. But before they were online, they were being transcribed and put into these journals. While my camera was off, I went and just grabbed a few of my journals. So, am I on, well, you can't see it right because of the filter I'm using, but these are 3 of the journals. And when I picked them up and looked at them, they were from 2011. And I was wondering why I still have them out on the shelf at this point. But I do highly encourage everyone to try the NCGS membership. Even if you only join for 1 year, you'll get, you know, enough that you can carry forth for a few years of research. So, okay, I'm finished. That's my publicity. There it is. Okay, let me see. And Daphne Gabb says, this has been one of my most useful memberships. Carolyn Rose says she joined a few months ago and has not received correspondence, Laurel. So would you make a notation of that and we will check into that? Adrian Fouché says member since 2018 from California, worth every penny for resources and research. And if I've missed, Greg Lamberson, I recently joined NCGS and have been thrilled with the society already. So I'm not going to read any more, but I just highly suggest that you join and tell them that Let's Talk North Carolina Genealogy sent you. All right. So next up is our very own, my ultimate co-host, Taneya Koonce, who's going to be talking to us about digitalnc.org. And I am going to turn my video back off. And if everybody who has theirs on will just stop video just while she's presenting. and make sure to mute yourself. And Taneya, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I am, if I was publicity chair or anything, it would probably be Digital NC, because I will admit to you now, I have a bias. I love this site. It's a great resource that we have available to us. And I want to start with a story. So I'm wearing my UNC gear, not just because we're talking about North Carolina today, but because there's also a connection to the Digital NC platform. Like Michelle, I received my library science degree from Chapel Hill, and I want to show you something. So some of you have heard this story before, but here we are at Google Maps, and if we zoom in on the campus of UNC, I'm going to zoom in on Wilson Library, right? Many of us are very familiar with Wilson Library and as a hub for much of the historical material that we have access to us in North Carolina. Well, the library school program at Chapel Hill lives and resides in Manning Hall, the building I am circling now. So for 2 years, I would go to Manning Hall every day for classes and other activities related to the degree program. And I had no interest in genealogy at that point. So where I did not go the 2 years I was on campus at Chapel Hill? Wilson Library. Maybe one time I went in there because of an assignment we had, but I didn't have the interest in family history back then that I do now. So unfortunately, I missed out on having the ability to really make advantage and use of the wonderful collection at Wilson Library. So close. We'll walk right by it all the time, just didn't go. So once I did get interested in family history and I quickly learned I could really leverage Wilson Library, I began to contact them and had many different email exchanges with the staff there as I was getting information to help me in my research. And Wilson Library is the home of the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center. And I'm gonna date myself here. So I got my degree in 99. And in 2010 is when they established the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center. And that became the formation of what we now know as Digital NC. So I think maybe I'm trying to make up for lost time and just how much I've corresponded with the team that makes Digital NC available to us. I have contributed to blog posts for them, written letters of support for them. I'm just a huge fan. So what I want to do is go through some of the highlights of what is available on the platform and just give you some a feel for how it works and what you have available to you in case you've not used it. And if you have used it, you may realize real quickly what I'm showing on the screen right now is that they have done a rebranding, a relaunching of their website just this week. So they just announced a few days ago that they're redesigning the site, and this is their soft beta launch of the new design. So we get the benefit of being able to be among the first to check it out and share it with you today. So what I want to do is talk about how the site is organized. We'll talk about the browsing options and then the searching options, because it's nice that we have both opportunities for accessing content, browsing and searching. So I'm gonna pull up my notes here real quickly so I can follow along with the little outline I made for myself and be focused and precise. So let me tell you about the site. So the Digital NC site is a project of the North Carolina Digital Heritage Center, the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, UNC Chapel Hill Libraries, and several sponsors, including the Institute of Museum and Library Services. So it's a collaborative partnership that makes this site available. And they work extensively with a number of libraries, museums, archives, schools, and other institutions across the state. They have it right on the front of their screen, 317 partner organizations. The way the site is laid out is this focus on two buckets of content, the collections and the newspapers. And let me scroll down and show you, they have a nice graphic that gives you a feel for where the content is and how it's broken down. And you see the green part of this donut circle is newspapers. A bulk of the content available on the site comes from digital issues of newspapers. They also have yearbooks, city directories, and we're going to talk about the different other formats that they offer. So it's a large amount of material. And the reason they divide it into this bucket of collections and newspapers is that they work a little bit differently. So what I'll do is talk about how these two buckets work and how we can make best advantage of it. So let's start with the collections and let's look at how we can browse the collections. We have 5 major sources of collections here: yearbooks or other education-related materials, memorabilia, images, city directories, and audiovisual content. So what I want to do is show you, and I'm going to open up into a new window each one so I can quickly browse through them. And this is a tip that I recommend when using the site. It's helpful to open up into a new window so you don't lose where you're at. So I've opened up into a new window, and let's look at the yearbooks page. On the North Carolina Yearbooks collection, you see we have a very nice table given to us that allows us to filter and sort through all the yearbooks they have available. So you have a list here in the middle of the screen of all the yearbooks in alphabetical order, but you could also start typing a school name and it will narrow it down. Calvin earlier in the text, in the chat, mentioned that we are both graduated from the North Carolina School of Science and Math. Our yearbooks are on here. So if I type science, I can see North Carolina School of Science and Math show up in the list. You can use the drop-down menu to choose a particular county if you know you want to focus on a particular county. And then every yearbook is labeled with what type of institution it is. So is it a college, university? Is it a high school? Is it a historically Black institution, or is it an institution for women? And we can use these filters to narrow down and see what yearbooks are available for that category. So if I'm interested in seeing what yearbooks are available for schools that were for women, I can choose that filter and get a narrowed down version of the list. So it's really helpful to have these filters to help you focus in on what you might want to look into. If I scroll further down the page, there is a search for yearbooks. So I can do a keyword search. I can select what school I'm interested in if that's helpful. I can choose a specific time range. And again, I can choose a location and use the filters. I'll talk about the exhibits a little bit later, but there are some groupings by theme of content into these online exhibits. And then you can also browse some of the other types of publications that are relevant for schools as not yearbook. For example, school catalogs, annual reports, magazines, but they are coming from an institution. So you can browse their collection that way. So that's the browse for the North Carolina yearbooks. I'm going to go to the next tab and show you North Carolina memory. So what's interesting about this layout is the browsing features, which is what I'm focusing on right now, are at the bottom of the screen. The reason it's at the bottom, I am guessing, is because it's so extensive. It takes up so much space, they didn't want to put it at the top. And look at this. There are so many different types of memorabilia that you can use. And they have a nice comprehensive list that I could keep scrolling, but it's in alphabetical order. Or you can start typing to filter the list. So if I wanted to know what do they have for funeral programs, I can just type the letters FU and it will filter to show me funeral programs. Or if I want to know, let's see, memorabilia, postcards, right? I could type POST and it starts to show me postcards. A nice feature of this memorabilia browse, or this browse feature in general, is that when you hover over the format, it shows you in a numerical form how many results are there. So there's 15 different items or postcards that I could browse. And if I hover over each of these, it shows you next to it how many are there. So that's nice. And you can also browse by location. So if I click over to the locations tab, you can see all the different towns and cities represented. And again, this is a filter list. The picture behind me on my background is from Plymouth, North Carolina. So if I wanted to know, well, what is in this memorabilia collection from Plymouth, I can start typing the town name and get there. I also want to point out that it's not just North Carolina locations here. I could type in FL and start to see, oh, there are locations in Florida tagged, right? Broward County, Clearwater, Delray Beach, Sarasota, Tampa, where I currently reside. So there are other locations here. I could type in CALI and start to see California. So just keep that in mind, that even though this is a North Carolina collection, there's also locations relevant to other states even. And then up here is the search. Again, I'm going to talk about the search later, but keyword, date range, and location. And so likewise, if we look at images, you have similar options, the search at the top, the browse functions at the bottom. For images, we can browse by subjects. And then you can also browse by locations. I'll go to the next tab, city directories. We know how fabulous city directories are. So the layout's similar, where we have a search here right at the top. Now there's not a browse here yet. Maybe it's something they want to add. This is a beta site, so I'm sure they're not finished with developing this website, so I will look forward to seeing hopefully a browse option added for city directories. And then we have sights and sounds. This is the audio-visual collection because they have moving images or videos, oral histories, and then other types of audio content that have been digitized and made available through the platform. So again, the search is at the top, and then we get browse options down below, and we can browse moving images. We can browse the oral histories by name. We can browse the sounds. So it's nice to have these browsing options to really, because browsing can help facilitate serendipity often. So it's just really nice to have this available to us. And then the last browse for the collections is a page where you can look at everything holistically. So you can do a simple keyword search. You can pick which collection you want to choose if that's your interest, or you can navigate on the page the different collections. And then in this case, the browse extends across all the different collections. So that is the collections part of the site. So let's talk about the newspapers when it comes to browsing. So I'm gonna, actually, let me close these tabs I just opened up. All right, and then let me browse newspapers and show that to you. So we have more than 500,000 pages of newspapers on the site. And when you open up the browse for the newspapers, we're presented with a very nice geographic representation of the number of digital newspapers by location. So if I wanted to hone in and see, well, what content is digitized for Plymouth, I could zoom in and I see 5 here. And if I keep zooming in, it's going to show them mapped out for me. But then I can also use the filtering, right? I could choose a county location, and Plymouth is in Washington County. So I could select Washington County, and then the list gets filtered down. So I know that they have 5 digital newspapers for Washington County, where my family's from, and I can start exploring it. So it's nice to have this browsing option. All right, so that's the browse. Let me go back to the homepage and talk about search, because it's helpful to just really get a feel for how searching works. And I will tell you, searching on collections is different than searching on the newspapers. So again, this is why they have the 2 different buckets. So let's talk about searching in the collections. When you first get started, you can put in a simple keyword. So the keyword I want to use today is Dred Wimberly. He was a brother of one of my ancestors, and maybe I'm curious to see what in the collections may have his name on it. The reason I'm picking him is because he was on the North Carolina State Senate in Reconstruction, Black man. So, he's got several things that have been written about him, articles about the decisions he made while he was on the state Senate. So he's a person that I know appears in news and other items. So if I type in his name, Dred Wimberly, and hit search collections, I get no results. But here is where I want to point out something that's very important about using the digital NC site. You see this full text search button? The default is that it's set to off, which means whatever you type in is going to be searched against the descriptive information for the content. It's not searching the full text of that content right away. You have to turn that on. So I'm going to turn it on, and I get 2 results, because now the system has looked into the material and found 2 records where his name is in the content. In the first instance, it's a magazine. In the second instance, it's a write-up in a newsletter. So there is information on this site for Dred Wimberly. I just had to turn that full text search on. Also, once you have your search screen like this, there are a number of filters available to you on the side that you can use. So I can narrow by year, I can narrow by the institution that contributed it, the collection that it's in, copyright details, and more. Also, I want to point out, actually, let me do another search because it'll be easier to point this out. So if I just do Koonce, and with the full text on, I've got 1,800 records. There's this little green button here called options. I want to point that out to you as well, because you have additional ways that you can manage and filter and drill down your results set. So knowing about that full text search is important. All right, now let's open up something and take a look at it. So I am going to, let's see, I'm going to type in my name, Taneya Koonce. All right, so here goes Taneya Koonce, and here's my yearbook from Science and Math. So I'm going to open it up just to give you an explanation of what the record itself is, how the record itself is structured. And it's structured into 5 parts, if I remember my count correctly. A preview of the content, the details, the files itself, there's an opportunity to comments, and you can get statistics. So I just collapsed all this so you can see these categories, but let me expand them back for you. So preview, this is where you actually see the digitized content. And when you do a search and you get your results and you land on content, here's something to know as well. When you land on this part, you will have to actually do your search again to find out where in the material your subject is. So I actually need to type my name again in order to see where in the yearbook I appear. So when I type in Taneya in the search, I get these blue markers and it tells me, yes, 2 instances are found. So I can click on the blue marker. Yes, here's my name and here's my lovely yearbook photo from when I was 17 years old. Love it. And then I can, did I hear something? And then you can also just navigate the blue markers that show you where your result is at in the book. If you look at the details, you can see the record details. This is the metadata about the particular item that you're looking at. And then you have opportunities to download the files and make comments. I want to point this out for the comments. If I make a comment and start a discussion, I can track this in case there's anyone else who's commenting and talking about it. So that's kind of cool. And I'll point out that this viewer that you're seeing for this yearbook is one of 3 different types of viewers on the Digital NC site. So you may not always see it looking the same. The newspapers have a viewer and the collections have 2 different types of viewers. But this is pretty standard fare for viewers of digital content on the internet. You will likely be very familiar with how to use the different options on the viewer. So let me go back to the home page. And that was just a basic search in the collections. There's also an advanced search. So I'm going to click on this and show it to you real quickly. And we get more fields that we can use. And what I wanted to point out about this advanced search is that these are like building blocks. Let me explain. You have the option to choose which type of search you want. If you choose all of the words, it's like using an or Boolean operator. So if I typed in Taneya Koonce and I chose all of the words, it would be Taneya or Koonce that it's looking for. No, all is and, sorry. It would be Taneya and Koonce that it's looking for. If I choose any of the words, it's Taneya or Koonce that it's looking for. So let me choose all the words. So I type Taneya Koonce, and then I choose what field, and it can be any field. And then I choose my and then I can go to the next line. So you don't need to enter more into these subsequent lines unless you want to do combinations. And then we have other options. So get familiar with the advanced search. They do offer search tips that it's helpful to read. I just wanted to point that out. All right. And then I know we're going over on our time, so I'll wrap this up quickly, but I would like to spend 5 minutes talking about the newspapers. Of course, we'll understand if you can't stay on, you can watch the recording later, but I think it's helpful to spend a little bit of time talking about newspapers.
And so, you're fine, Taneya.
Okay, all right. I want to, I don't want to keep everybody too long, but I get so excited and I love this site. So newspapers. All right, let's do a search in the newspapers because I showed you the browsing options. So in newspapers, I am going to do a search for, let's see, we'll do Taneya Koonce again. All right, and search newspapers. And we get 2. Now, these results are from the student newspaper at Science and Math, right? And so I have 2 results here. So that's a pretty standard search, and it highlights where the name appears. And so, yes, my name does appear here. I know exactly what this is. I've looked at it before, but it's nice to see that option. I will point out, because I know this can be a source of frustration sometimes, is you cannot revise your search from this page. In order to do any change to your search, you do have to go back to where you started from. But let me do another search, and let me do Dread Wembley again. Hit search newspapers. All right, now I have 183 results. You can sort this different ways: relevance, date, or the title of the paper. I can choose to look at it in this gallery view or a list, and I can jump around pages. Fairly straightforward. But a tip for using the newspaper results when you have many like this is, again, open it up in a new page. So if I wanted to look at these, what I like to do is, since the results come 4 in a row, I will open up all 4 and then use my tabs in my browser to check out the results. So I'll use my first tab to go into the first result. And this is an article about Dred Wimberly and his history and his service and what he did in his life. And this viewer does look different than the last viewer we saw. And I will point out that this is the same viewer that's used by the Library of Congress if you've used their Chronicling America website. So they use the same exact viewer that Library of Congress does. So if you've got experience using Library of Congress, this will look very familiar to you. And again, you have your controls and your navigation. So you can go page by page, you can jump around issue by issue. You can choose to look at the text that the computer software thinks is on the page, when we know how that may not always be perfect, right? But you can choose to look at a PDF version, you can choose to look at an image version, and you can clip it. Now, I will point out that the clipping options here are fairly basic compared to maybe the clipping experience you'd have on a site like newspapers.com, where the clipping experience is much more robust, but it can still be helpful. My tip for clipping from Digital NC is it's good to use the native clipping experience if you have a news entry that's fairly short and you can get a good zoom in of. So let's say, let me look for one on this page. So let's say I wanted this recipe, right? And I just wanted the picture. I can zoom in and get a nice view of this dish. And so I would hit clip and it's going to give me that nice view. However, this can be a little bit more unwieldy if you're trying to capture a larger field zone as opposed to a narrower field zone. So I do a lot of clipping offsite. What I tend to do is download the image version and then edit it manually myself. I just find that to be the best workflow as I navigate the site. So it's just good to know you have those options. And then the details of the paper are given to you. You can see, any copyright issues, the contributing library or organization that provided it, and again, navigation around the dates. And then again, if I'm done with this particular result, I can use my tab to go to the next one and repeat the process and check it out. So this is a clipping of when Dred Wimberly's son passed away, and it talks about Benjamin, his name is Benjamin, his experience, and I can clip that and use it for my family history research. So let's see, I think I want to go into the advanced search for, let me go back home. Oh, okay, they're still building it, so I hit a broken link, so I know they will be fixing that. Oh yeah, the newspaper's advanced search. If I click that hyperlink, it takes me to this, and I do want to show this. This is similar to what I showed you on the other advanced search, but what's helpful to know here is that you have 4 options for searching. These are 4 separate types of searches. So again, if I put in something and I say any of the words, if I put in Taneya Koonce, it's going to look for Taneya or Koonce. If I put it, so let me take it out of here. If I put it in this box, all the words, it's going to look for Taneya and Koonce together. If I take it out of here and put it in with the phrase, it's going to look for the phrase Taneya Koonce, so it's going to look for it together. And then if I take it out of here and go down to with the words, and there's a proximity setting. I love proximity searches. And I'll tell you one way I use proximity searches. I could put in Koonce and died within 5 words of each other. And I use this technique for obituaries. So if I'm specifically looking for obituaries, I put in the surname and the word died, and it will find results where the word Koonce and died appeared within 5 words of each other. That's often a tip that this is an obituary, because it will say, Barfield Koonce died on such and such date. Or I could use, instead of died, I could do passed, right? Passed away. So I love using proximity searching for obituaries. And then you can narrow your search to a county, year, a particular newspaper title, even if you need to, and conduct that search there. So there's so much more we could cover about Digital NC. It's definitely worth exploring and using. I find so many relevant materials. I just today found something else I had not known in my family history. And I just remind people that not only is it great for North Carolina, but you may find things for other geographic areas as well, just because our relatives are traveling and maybe live in different states and have family here in North Carolina. So it's just a great resource. So I will end with that and see if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Madam Co-host. we all could see and sense and feel your excitement. Taneya and I have had some discussions about digital NC, and I'm going to be very honest, even on this public video, that, you know, I've had some struggles using digital NC, which is, as Taneya said, on the same, uses the same interface as the Library of Congress, where I also have some trouble. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that I'm an avid user of that paid newspaper site that we all know about, where I think, you know, we're paying to get maybe a little bit of a better user experience, but you can't beat this for free 99. And remember that these are going to be it's going to be all North Carolina focused content, which is why we're, you know, talking about it today. And I have seen improvement just with the new beta user experience and setup that they have in the results that I'm getting and in my ease of using the site. So I do really encourage everyone to take some time on the site. Taneya, you've had some wonderful comments. One question that was asked, I think I answered, but you're certainly welcome to add to it, which is, how does the digital NC newspapers content compare with what's available on newspapers.com? Do you want to speak on that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So one of the primary ways it differs is on time range. You will find that the digital NC is more focused on historical papers, although they do have papers that go into like the 50s and the 60s, but they tend to focus more on that historical content. Newspapers.com, you know, will have many more issues and papers that are coming closer and closer to present day. So that's one area that they differ. There will be different papers covered on the different platforms. So that's always, you know, a known issue with any service that we use, is that content will differ from site to site. And, you know, people will ask me, well, which newspaper site is the best? And my answer is the one that has the papers your families were in, right? So getting familiar with the content coverage is definitely going to help you. And that's why I really like the browse option on the digital NC site. And newspapers.com has one too, is because you can look at the map. And maybe you aren't as familiar with North Carolina geography, but once you get to know what town or city your ancestors were in, it's nice to be able to look at the map and see what's surrounding it. So that's going to help you identify papers that you could be exploring in your research, is that you can use this nice geographic map that's offered. So content coverage will be different, but getting familiar with what they have for what areas is helpful.
Thank you. And we have comments from Laurel. New things are being added all the time, which is very true. And Shelley Murphy says, good info, love it. Thank you. Greg Lamberson, wonderful. Thank you. Shannon Christmas has commented, newspapers.com is excellent, which, if anyone didn't know, that's the paid site I was referring to. And he adds that myheritage.com also has excellent newspaper search tools. My cousin, Larry Felton, says it looks like digital NC newspapers has more sophisticated searching options than newspapers.com, especially with the proximity search. And then there's a question from Catherine Schultz. Are any of the items in NC Digital's collections from the NC State Archives?
Good question. And here, what I'm going to do is share my screen again, because I didn't point this out. They do have a list of contributors. And I really like that they do this because it's easy to see where the content comes from. And so if I were to type archives, it would filter. Oh, it's not filtering. Yes, State Archives. So I could click on State Archives, and they have a page for every contributor that allows you to see what content comes specifically from them. So yes, there is content from the State Archives here, and you can see this type of arrangement for any contributor for the site. So they've got 49 moving images and 17 newspaper titles.
Thank you. And just more and more accolades. So I will say to you, Taneya, to be sure to save the chat. And
Yes.
I did have a note to myself to remind everyone to save the chat. And if you need some help with that, you just look down at the bottom right side of the chat box. And in that bottom corner, you'll see 3 little dots. Click on those 3 little dots and then click Save Chat. And that will put the chat into a document on your computer in your Zoom folder that you may not have known you had, but you do have a Zoom folder if you attend a Zoom meeting. So you'll find today's chat in there. And I see many thanks to Taneya, to Laurel, and to Michelle. So everybody's appreciative of what's been shared today. And we at Let's Talk North Carolina Genealogy are appreciative of you. Before we wrap up, I do want to encourage everyone to visit the YouTube channel. This replay will be up there just shortly after we get off. And you can go back and take your time listening to the presentations that were given today. And I did have the link on copy, but I guess I waited too long to paste it. And so I no longer can paste it, but maybe while I'm waiting, Taneya can do that. And I also had the link for the December 18th chat, and I can get that again real quick because I still have that open. So Taneya has put the link to our YouTube channel. We are just a few people away from having 1,000 subscribers. I think we need something like 10 more subscribers. Yes. So if you have not subscribed, please go click that link for the YouTube channel and subscribe, and click the bell so that you'll be aware of when we have new videos up. And the link I'm putting in now is to register for the December 18th holiday festive research chat. And we hope you will join us then. And of course, Taneya and I will be sending out emails and posting on social media the link for registration for that. So I've got subscribe, I've got save chat, I've got register. Did I leave anything out, Taneya?
I think that's it.
All right.
If not, we can email it out to everyone too.
Let's just give a big hand to all 3 of our presenters today. And thank you all for being here. And we look forward to seeing everyone on December 18th at 2 o'clock for our holiday festive research chat. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
I need to save the chat before I go.